Welcome, everybody, to the newest episode of To the Rack with Mac. I am, as always, your host, Nick Mac Daddy Mac. Big shout out to AWSM and AWSMradio.com for having us this week as well. Although you will not be able to catch us on AWSM Radio this week. But this is a very special episode tonight because joining me, you might recognize him if you listened to Married to the Game back in the day, my friend and colleague, Joe Scurto. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good, Mac. It's a pleasure to be back with you, bro. Glad to be on the show and excited to, just spew some basketball like old times.
Absolutely, absolutely. Joe, as I don't know if you're familiar with the show's layout, but at the beginning of each show, we each have 5 good minutes. And we use these minutes to go over something either that irks us throughout the week or something that we're just really itching to talk about throughout the NBA. I know for myself this week, I could go into detail on a lot of things. First of all, we witnessed quite possibly the worst NBA slam dunk contest of all time this past weekend at the NBA All-Star Game in Cleveland. Great festivities all weekend. Really big into the skills challenge. I thought that was great. I thought the Rising Stars format with the 4 drafted teams was great as well. And the target scores, they played that out perfectly. The 3-point contest was exciting. And then the dunk contest was one big dud. But I'm not going to harp on that too much. NBA 75th anniversary team was also introduced this past week at the All-Star Game. And it was incredible what made some of the most iconic moments in NBA history, some of the most iconic pictures in NBA history, all the Celtics legends getting together, all the Lakers legends getting together and taking pictures. But no, I don't want to address any of that this week. Oh, and I just wanted to add that Michael Jordan got the loudest ovation of the weekend when he was introduced as the very last on the NBA 75th anniversary team. So that was really cool to see as well. But what I want to talk about tonight, and you can chime in while I do my little rant or right after I do my little rant, but I want to talk about my Dallas Mavericks. I haven't done that in a few weeks, folks, and I want to get into that tonight because before the season started, I heard a lot of criticism, and rightfully so. 2 years in a row losing to the Clippers in the first round, we deserve that criticism, but there was Luka Doncic criticism. They fire Rick Carlisle. There was criticism for that. Not only do they fire Rick Carlisle, but they make a quote-unquote controversial hire in Jason Kidd. And there was a lot of criticism about that. 2 weeks ago, I sat here on this show and criticized the Dallas Mavericks for trading Kristaps Porzingis. I thought, what the hell are we doing? This is one of the best seasons we've had in recent memory. What's going on? And I didn't think Luka could do it all by himself. But ladies and gentlemen, we need to start speaking about Luka Doncic and maybe start considering him in the MVP race a little bit more. Now, I'm not saying he's cracked the top 5 yet, but the month of February, I believe he averaged over 43 points per game in the month of February so far, which is, excuse my French, folks, fucking absurd. And he's averaging 27 and 9 right now after a very slow start to the season. He's got the Mavericks not chomping at the heels of the Utah Jazz for the 4th spot in the West. The 4th spot. Everybody lambasted me when I said Jason Kidd was a good hire and a good fit with the Dallas Mavericks. And look how he has this team playing defense. They have the best defensive rating in the NBA. A team that has had a bottom 20, bottom 25 defensive rating for the last 10 years is finally in the upper echelon of the defensive teams in the league without very much, standout players besides Luka Doncic. So I just wanted to give some love to Luka and the Dallas Mavericks, of course. Joe, I know that you have an interesting thing to talk about tonight, and I'm going to give my thoughts on it after you speak. Would you like to say anything about Luka and the Dallas Mavericks?
Mac, I think you're right, man. I think he does deserve a little bit more credit. And honestly, I liked the Porzingis trade for Dinwiddie. It might sound insane, but I think now you're going to see a different type of Doncic. I mean, look what he's doing, 9 rebounds per game. That stands out to me. He virtually could do everything, but the unfortunate thing is he'll never be known as a sexy type of player, even though he's a very popular in terms of in the media or whatnot, because of how skilled he is. But guys who are over him, like Embiid, like Giannis, like Ja Morant, they're more sexy and they're on teams that are performing better. And it's yes, I know that the Bucks and the Dallas Mavericks have the same record, but it just doesn't work that way. The Bucks are the defending champs, so Giannis is going to be put over him no matter what. He's still going to be in the top 3, but I agree. I think he at least needs to be considered in the top 5 for sure, and I think he's getting there. And maybe by the end of the season, with Porzingis being gone, I think you might see a different Luka, and I do think they're going to be a tough team in the playoffs, depending on what their seeding is. I think they
if we play the Jazz first round, we're knocking them out. I'm telling you that right now. I am a big Utah Jazz are frauds, and they're a first round exit no matter who they play. So I'd be grateful to finish 4 or 5 this year.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Exactly, you took the words out of my mouth. If they could finish 4th or 5th, I have a good feeling that they'll win a series, and then they can kind of contend and see what happens with them. But yeah, my rant here is definitely the top 75. They ranked it, and just took a look of it. And I'll just go down the line. You got MJ at 1, LeBron 2, Kareem 3. I'm good with that. Magic 4, still good with that. Wilt 5, Russell 6, Bird 7. I'm good with that top 7. And then this is when it kind of gets confusing for me. Tim Duncan 8, Oscar Robertson 9, and Kobe 10. And we're leaving a guy out who should absolutely be in the top 10, and that's Shaquille O'Neal. He's 11. To me, I'm switching out Oscar Robinson. I'm putting him to 11, and I'm inserting Shaq to 8, and I'm going Duncan 9 and then Kobe 10. I think Duncan and Kobe have always been compared who's better, and if you want to say Duncan's one better than Kobe, that's fine. Personally, I don't think so, but in terms of just fixing something small, Shaq has to be there at least the top 10. I give him top 8. I mean, I think he is the most dominant player of all time. You look at his stats, he's almost averaging 3 blocks per game, which is unheard of. 23.7 points a game, almost 11 rebounds, and he really just revitalized of dominant basketball in the late 90s, the early 2000s, and he did it at a high level for a very long time. And even when he was on the Suns, he was still a valuable player. So I think it's absolute BS. ESPN got that wrong. He should absolutely be a top 10. Like I said, I give him top 8. I give him right after Larry Bird.
I got to be honest, man. I have a completely different top 10. Now, the top 4 of ESPN, I'm right on board. It's Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Magic. That's my top 4. At 5, I actually have Larry Bird. At 6, I have Shaq. At 7, I have Kobe. At 8, I have Duncan. At 9, I have Wilt. And at 10, I have Hakeem Olajuwon, who is not a name that was, I don't even think he was top 15 on their list, if I'm not mistaken. Correct 13. Me if I'm wrong. He's 13.
He's 13. KD's over him.
What? Sorry.
Yeah. KD's 12.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a travesty that Kevin Durant is at 12 and Hakeem Olajuwon is at 13. An absolute travesty. I'm sorry. I'm a big fan of KD. Don't get me wrong. But I watched KD win 2 finals MVPs on a super team. The 73-9 Warriors that added Kevin Durant. I watched Hakeem Olajuwon drag Kenny Smith and to the finals, and an old Clyde Drexler to the finals to win a title. And finals MVP 2 years in a row. MVP, defensive player of the, come on, man. Wow. ESPN, you guys need some new list makers. Get some new blood in there. Switch it all up. That's horrible. Shaq 11.
Yeah, that's so bad. I could see Kobe too. I'm a big Kobe guy too. I would bring him down, but you can get away with that, but not to not put Shaq in the top 10. And even Hakeem, I didn't even think of him. The fact that Durant is over him too, that's absurd.
That's crazy to me. And I love Kevin Durant. He might be, we are looking at a top 2, top 3 scorer of all time, depending where you rank Jordan and Kobe. But come on, man. Really? Oh, that's terrible. And I do have a reason for not having Bill Russell top 10 as well. He's number 11 for me. Bill Russell, probably, arguably the greatest defender of all time. Could guard the perimeter, could guard the interior. He was a beast. Not going to dispute that. But in a game as fast-paced as his era, man, and to never average 20 points per game, it's a rough look. It's a rough look. But anyway, That's our 5 good minutes. It actually turned in, pretty damn well on the dot there with 10 good minutes. We're going to get into just our second half of the prediction, second half of the year predictions. We've got quite a little bit of basketball left. I'm excited. I believe we have 34 games left in the regular season. So, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. A lot of storylines. And one of the biggest storylines headed into the second half of the season is the Eastern Conference standings. I'd like to get into that first tonight. And currently, we have a tie across the top with the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat. We have, I believe, separating between the first seed and the 7 seed is 4.5 games, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe the 6 seed is 4.5 games, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe that's your Boston Celtics, by the way, everybody. Yes, he has a Jets banner in his background, and he's also a Boston Red Sox and Boston Celtics fan, in case you don't know who Joe Scurto is. But, Joe,
weird.
Taking a look at the Eastern Conference standings, man, what is your biggest storyline heading into the second half?
My biggest storyline is the Cleveland Cavaliers, honestly. Just what they've been able to do with the 3 young monsters that they have in Mobley, Garland, and Jared Allen. I think what they've been able to do is very impressive. And as you mentioned, from the 1 to 6, it's separating 4.5. This team's only 2.5 out. They're tied with the Sixers, who just go and add James Harden and automatically are contenders to win a championship or at least come out of the East. But my thing is, I just want to see if they can keep going. Can they stay at this rate? Can they have an opportunity to be a 1 or 2 seed? As crazy as that sounds, statistically, it says yes. The standings say yes, they do have an opportunity. And I think it shows you if they can keep it at this rate, they could be the next team that are a sexy destination for a star to come through and play for them. I know the LeBron, it already has started, but when there's other, and that's another story. I don't want to even mention LeBron, even any other star who's on the move, even if it's like a Giannis or something. This is a sexy destination. This is a destination that if they get an all-star, yes, these rookies are not rookie. Well, I guess Mobley's not Mobley. Garland's a rookie. No, Mobley. Yeah. Mobley's a rookie and Garland's his second year. Allen is still 23 years old. These guys are all young. They might have to change their game with the superstar, but I think these guys can mesh well with the superstar as well. So I think the Cavaliers are the team that I want to watch. I hope they succeed. I hope they keep playing well because that will be an interesting team down the road. They might have a bright future if they keep winning with the roster they have now, because they're going to be a destination that players might want to play in because they have something good going on right now.
You bring up probably my favorite storyline of the year in the Cleveland Cavaliers. And not only are they really young, but they're really fun to watch. Even the way that just Evan Mobley is such a dynamic two-way player. His defense has been incredible. Jared Allen. I mean, my biggest thing is they shut up the haters, because when Evan Mobley was drafted, everybody said that him and Jared Allen wouldn't work. They gave Jared Allen that big money extension. They gave they drafted Evan Mobley. Then at the beginning of the year, they lose Colin Sexton for the season, and you don't know, oh man, what's it going to look like? It's, with just Garland, and then rookie Rubio goes down, and you're like, oh my God, all this pressure on Darius Garland's shoulders. But the Cleveland Cavaliers have responded, and like you said, sit in the 4th seed right now, but they are pretty much tied in the loss column. They are tied in the loss column with Philadelphia. They're 1 game actually ahead in the loss column of Milwaukee, and they're only 2.5 games out of the 1 seed. The Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls are tied for the 1 seed. This Eastern Conference has been incredible to watch. And what I want to do is give a shout out to another top 5 MVP candidate in Demar Derozan and the Chicago Bulls, because being ranked the worst free agent signing of the offseason to being a top 4 MVP candidate, at least on my list, and we're going to get into that later. And along with Zach LaVine, Vucevic finally being consistent. They lose Lonzo Ball and they lose Alex Caruso, and they're still in the first seed. It's just been incredible. Billy Donovan has done such a great job. Shout out to the rookie Ayo Dosunmu, and we're going to get into the rookie class as well. They have just been immaculate at the top there. And that's my biggest storyline, is can the Chicago Bulls maintain this? Because Zach LaVine's knee is a little bit of a concern. going into the All-Star break, he was getting tests, I believe, a couple days before. Haven't heard anything about the results of the test, so that's obviously no news is good news kind of situation. But for me, I really hope the Chicago Bulls keep it going. That is another good story, man, because they have not been a competitive franchise since Derrick Rose.
Right. It's great for basketball, honestly. And now they got, Lonzo will come back from injury. Caruso will come back from injury. Hopefully Levine stays healthy. If they stay healthy, I think they're going to remain in the top 2 seeds. And it's bizarre that
you Watch out for the Sixers, though, man. Watch out for the Sixers, though.
Of course. Yeah, of course. I think one of those teams in the Heat and the Bulls are probably going to flake out in terms of switching with the Sixers. The Sixers, I think it's a disappointment if they're not the 1 seed in terms of you looking at talent and the move they just made for James Harden. But it's crazy to me. You got the Bulls at the 1 seed, tied for the 1 seed. The Nets are the 8 seed. And I think this is also one of the first years in the Eastern Conference when you don't have a losing team that probably is going to make the playoffs. I think that makes it a lot better and enjoyable. I know a lot of people probably hate the fact that the Nets are so bad and the Lakers are so bad, and nobody wants to see these teams like the Cavaliers or the Bulls because they're not those teams that are
love it.
Loaded with superstars. Yeah, I think rating-wise it's not good, but to watch, to be able to get through games, it is good. Because I think, last year was the same thing with the Suns, and now you're looking at this year, the Suns are for real as well. But with the Bulls, yeah, I'm just happy they're competing. I'm happy they're relevant again. And like I said, it's just really good for the league. It's a historic team, of course, because of MJ. And if they're able to kind of make a run and be competitive, it would be good to watch. And I think they will continue to be competitive because DeMar DeRozan, the dude is having a career year. And where he is at his career now, it's pretty impressive. And I think the more impressive thing for him is how well he's been shooting the 3. He's not a 3-point shooter, but he's at almost 35%. That's career high for him. So
yeah, it's nuts the way he's been able to shoot. Not to mention game winners coming up in the clutch,
Yeah, he's just been a difference maker all year. And all those additions, you date back from last year, Vucevic. Why? I think we have talked about why the hell were the Bulls getting Vucevic? And now this year, you know why, because they were brewing something up and everything has been working in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers, man. I love seeing that. I don't care that the Lakers and Nets were bad. And this is coming from somebody who picked the Nets and Lakers to be in the finals at the beginning of the season. I don't mind that the Nets are the 8 seed and the Lakers are the 9 seed. Now, I do think the Nets are in a little better shape than the Lakers, of course, because Anthony Davis, of course, going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with that absolutely nasty ankle injury. But you mentioned the Phoenix Suns, and they are dealing with a very big blow of their own. And Chris Paul having surgery on either his hand or his thumb and missing, probably going to take about 7 weeks. And there is 7 weeks left in this NBA season. So how big of a blow is this? Because Phoenix has been rolling. And at 37 years old, Chris Paul is leading the league in assists. DeAndre Ayton playing for that extension, playing for that new contract should he decide to leave Phoenix. Devin Booker playing at an all-NBA level. And I don't care who hears that. I don't care about the backlash of that. Devin Booker is playing at an all-NBA level. They're 48-10. Wake up, people. I'm not saying he's the MVP. I'm not saying he's even the best shooting guard in the league. But he's an all-NBA caliber player, whether it be second, third team. Probably third team at this point because there are some great guards in the NBA. But I think it is it's Chris Paul. The impact Chris Paul has on the floor is unlike any other point guard we've ever seen. Outside of Curry, right? Curry and Magic. So it's bad. It's bad in my mind. Devin Booker, the camera's on you, man. Can you sustain the 48-10 pace? Can you sustain staying in the 1 seed with the Warriors struggling a little bit as well without Draymond Green? So.
Right. Yeah. I think, losing Chris Paul is a huge blow. I mean, this is a team that was probably guaranteed 60 wins. I mean, they still very likely can. It's still a lot of basketball left to be played, but yeah, it's just they were on pace to have probably the best season in their franchise. That's how good they've been playing. That's how good those guys have been meshing, kind of carrying that chemistry from last year into this year and just showing that, like, hey, we're for real. Like, we're one of the better teams in the Western Conference. So I think it's a huge blow, and I think this will be a big enough blow to the point that they might be caught. I don't know by who, but with the Warriors and Grizzlies, I still think those are two very, very good teams. And Chris Paul is just such a big, asset to that team. But like you mentioned, Devin Booker, I think this is his time to prove he's all NBA. Carry this team on your back and perform, even escalate your level even higher. Kind of like we mentioned with Luka losing Kristaps in that trade. Show us that you are this legitimate all-star player, a guy who I think crazy enough has been compared to Kobe, and that is bizarre and terrible and should not even be in the same sentence. But still, show these guys that you are an all NBA type of player. You are one of the bright young guys in the NBA's future. So I don't think they're doomed. And I think the fact that they have a 6.5 game lead is in their favor, but it's a huge blow. And it's no guarantee that Chris Paul is back 100% in the playoffs. So that's definitely something that they should be worried about.
Yeah, and we saw the effects that Chris Paul not being 100% last year had on the Phoenix Suns. Probably cost them the championship, because if he was at full strength, I believe we see a much different Chris Paul, even though he did step it up in the Western Conference Finals for sure. Listen, Devin Booker is averaging 25, 5, and 4. It's not going to blow you out of the water. However, he's shooting the three, the best he ever has. He's playmaking at a much better level than he ever has. And his defense has really stepped up. So hopefully, listen, Chris Paul is still going to be there. Like once he recovers from his surgery, and he's going to join them on the bench, and he's one of the best floor generals I think we've ever seen. And, as long as he's there, that's an advantage for the Phoenix Suns. One guy I didn't mention before was Mikhail Bridges, being second in the NBA Defensive Player of the Year race right now. And he has been a big part of why this team is 48-10 as well. So got to give a shout out to that, as well as like guys like Cam Johnson, Chris Paul making Bismack Biyombo look good again, or good for the first time in his career. Like Chris Paul that's the Chris Paul effect though. Remember, Chris Paul and James Harden, I guess, made Clint Capella a max contract player. Chris Paul, made DeAndre Jordan all NBA. Chris Paul made Bismack Biyombo, relevant on ESPN for a couple nights, which is a feat in itself. So, let's be honest. I don't think Jesus could make Bismack Biyombo all NBA, but Chris Paul was making sure he did his damnedest to do that. So, it is a big blow. We'll see how the rest of the year plays out. I'm curious to see how Booker steps up and becomes the leader on the floor. It's definitely his time to shine. So, let's get into a race we've mentioned a couple times tonight. Let's talk about the MVPs. Let's talk about the MVP race, because currently, at least in my mind, I don't know if you have your top 5, but I have my own personal top 5. I believe that Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, those are the top 3, but I do believe that Joel Embiid is leading that race slightly right now over Giannis Antetokounmpo at 2, and then Jokic at 3, and then, like I said before, DeMar DeRozan at 4. And yes, I still have Ja Morant at 5.
Yeah, I have very similar. I might be a little surprised. I have the same 5, but I actually have DeRozan at 3 over Jokic right now, just because of what my thing is. In terms of most valuable, they're winning. They're the first seed in the East. If they can remain the first seed in the East, and let's say the Nuggets remain at the 6th seed, and that's no guarantee either, because look at the T-Wolves only 2.5 behind the Nuggets. So. And I get with the Nuggets, they've lost a lot of pieces, and Jokic is no doubt one of the best in the league easily. But I think we have to give the credit where it's due for DeRozan, just giving where he is in his career, 32, and going to the Bulls, no expectations at all, like 0 zip, maybe
like negative expectations. Ranked the worst free agent offseason signing by a lot of people. Called incredibly massive overpay. Do you know how bad the Los Angeles Lakers would kill to have DeMar DeRozan right now?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Over Russell Westbrook.
He might turn that season around completely. He doesn't stop AD from landing and nearly snapping his ankle in a million pieces, but he definitely helps that team more than Russell Westbrook.
Oh, absolutely. The dude is nearly averaging 30 points a game. And I think His second highest was 27, and that was in 2016. Like, he is playing the best basketball of his life. So with the zero expectations, the fact that the Bulls are the 1 seed and the Nets are the 8 seed, and it has to be all credit to DeRozan. I know they got some pieces over there, but the Nuggets had more expectation going in. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Well,
could Jokic jump him? Of course, but I want to give the credit where it's due as of right now, I guess.
I don't think that's a crazy take, but I will say this about Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is a favorite of the advanced analytics crowd because when it comes to advanced analytics, Jokic leads in, I'd say 60%, maybe
Almost
even higher than that.
Yeah.
He's an absolute beast. But I will say this in his defense, that no Jamal Murray. We don't even know when he'll get Jamal Murray back. I haven't really heard any news on Jamal Murray's torn. Yeah, exactly. But then he loses Michael Porter Jr. again to the back injury. His second best player right now, I'd say Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's probably, the second best player on that team right now. And I've never been high on him. Yes, he was great in the dunk contest, but other than that, go off about Aaron Gordon, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of him, in the traditional scenarios. But you got guys like Bones Highland stepping it up off the bench over there in Denver. I like that Denver team, man. They are a fun basketball team to watch, but I gotta defend Jokic a little bit. It is a historic season. I have him 3. Listen, he can easily drop. He can easily leapfrog everybody like this.
Right.
My takeaway about the MVP race is this: the big man is back, baby. The big man is back. The top 3 MVP candidates are big men. 1 power forward, 2 centers, and a power forward that is a freak, quite literally. Joel Embiid, one of the most skilled big men I know I've ever seen. Nikola Jokic, probably the best playmaking big man I've ever seen, period. And this is just the last 2 seasons. It's been incredible to watch. The big man is back in the NBA.
The big man is back, and it's almost, that's what it's labeled, like power forward, center, like it's just big man now, and that's exactly what Giannis is. That's exactly what Embiid and Jokic are. And as you mentioned, these guys they were also in the MVP conversation last year, all 3 of them, and Jokic obviously won. And I think Embiid was probably the front runner, and then the last 2 years before that, it was Giannis. So these big men are taking over. I think it's good for the game and kind of maybe leaning off that narrative that only 3-point shooters are successful nowadays in the NBA, because these guys are proving that dominance can lead to MVP.
Except that Jokic can shoot the 3 and so can Embiid.
Yeah.
So,
right. But not like elite, like Steph Curry shooters. But no, I get what you're saying.
There's not many elite Steph Curry shooters, although this year he looks very human. True.
He does. Yeah. One of the worst 3-point shooting. Yeah, worst. Hey, at least he broke the record this year. That's one thing you could delete from the slump. But no, I agree. I think Jokic could definitely jump, and he could very well win it. Who knows? The Nuggets could go on a tear, and Jokic could continue his crazy. I think, what is he? 26, 13, and 7, or 7.9. So I'll give him 8. Yeah, those are insane stats. And they very well can kind of move their way up in the Western Conference, because that standings, that the conference is obviously pretty wide open as well. So,
well, they are a game and a half behind my Dallas Mavericks, but shout out to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the 7th seed. They're nipping at the Nuggets' heels right now, 2.5 games back of the Nuggets. I don't think that realistically the Nuggets could catch the Mavericks. Listen, I could be completely wrong about the Mavericks, and they fall apart the second half of the year without Kristaps Porzingis, because they not only got Spencer Dinwiddie in that trade, they got nine fingers Bertans over there, the sharpshooter, quote unquote. I don't believe that, ladies and gentlemen. That was a very sarcastic nickname that I gave him. But other than that, man, maybe the Jazz fall that far. Again, this audience knows every week that I do not believe in the Utah Jazz whatsoever. I will not believe in the Utah Jazz whatsoever. I think they need to tear it down and rebuild, but they never can, because they're stuck on 2 big contracts, and they're going to have to let one of those guys go for sure. One of those guys is going to force their way out, and I'm going to bet it's Donovan Mitchell, as I've said a million times. But the Nuggets for me, I don't know, man. They're unpredictable. They're waiting for guys to come back. They're waiting for guys to step up. So team record is a big part of MVP, right? Team record, narrative, and the numbers matter when it comes to MVP. So it's a very, very close race this year, very fun race this year, but it's not the only fun race we got going on right now. And we're going to switch from a couple of dominating veterans to some very, very talented and exciting and very good rookie class that we got going on right now. The Rookie of the Year race, one of the best I've ever seen. Right now at the top, I believe we have Evan Mobley, Scottie Barnes, Josh Giddey at 3, which love watching Josh Giddey play. He's been incredible to watch. Too bad he's stuck over on a horrible Oklahoma City Thunder team right now. And I believe at 4 is Cade Cunningham, and 5 from the Orlando Magic, Franz Wagner. But that top 5 is not the only impressive thing about this rookie class. It seems that there's 20 rookies making significant impact around the league. Davion Mitchell out in Sacramento, Chris Duarte out in Indiana, Ayo Dosunmu out in Chicago. I mean, Jonathan Kuminga out in Golden State, Cam Thomas out in Brooklyn. It has been one of the funnest, one of the most exciting, one of the most electric rookie classes since I've been alive, since 1989.
It has. I mean, these rookies are balling out, and I think it's maybe it's starting to change the narrative that the NBA draft matters, because I think it's like the least important draft, maybe besides the MLB, because you don't even know if these guys are going to make it to the league. But I feel like the hype has kind of taken away, especially after it's like the first 2 picks, and then you forget about everyone else. But a guy that brings to my mind is Franz Wagner. I mean, this dude has really, I get it, he's not on a very good team and you don't really pay attention much of the Magic, but what he's able to do, I mean, the dude is shooting 46% from the field as a rookie, and he's also shooting 36% as a rookie, averaging almost 15 points. So he's somebody who's really surprised me. I'm a Michigan guy at heart, so I'm happy to see that at least one of the Wagners have panned out, because they both had great careers in Michigan, but he's been somebody who's really stuck out. And of course, we talk about Evan Mobley, what he's been able to do, probably have had the most, even though I forgot he was a rookie. That's how good he's been playing. I think he has a huge impact of why the Cavaliers are where they're at right now. Dude's averaging 15 and 8 as a rookie. Very impressive.
Defensive impact's crazy from Mobley.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that him meshing with Allen has basically been a godsend. Like that is why this team is dangerous. They have 2 big men who are very good at rebounding, and they could score too. Like Mobley he'll be able to score 20 plus points if needed. So same with Allen. So he's really helped the Cavs as a whole as well.
I mean, are we looking at the Twin Towers 2.0? Remember how we had like Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon, and now we got Jared Allen and Evan Mobley? Relax, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not calling Evan Mobley the next Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm not saying they're better than Hakeem and Ralph Sampson yet. I'm just saying, could we be looking? I'm asking the question.
I mean, it's possible. Like, Mobley's also very mobile, no pun intended, for a big dude at 6'11". Like, he can move around. He's actually very athletic. Allen's more that just big, huge body, very aggressive. I think he's
athletic, super athletic.
Super athletic. I think he's kind of going to be what everyone thought Andre Drummond was going to be consistently. Like, he's an absolute monster. So, yeah, I don't think it's crazy. Like, both of these guys, super young. Mobley's only 20, and I believe Allen just turned 23. So these guys, they have them locked up, especially with Mobley on a rookie deal and Allen, of course, getting an extension after that trade, after that James Harden trade that ultimately sent him there. So I don't think it's crazy, Mac. These guys are balling out, and they're a big reason why this Cavs team, again, zero expectations, are only 2.5 out of the first seed in the East.
Let's talk about how the Cleveland Cavaliers won that James Harden trade.
Oh, absolutely. They absolutely did.
I mean, yeah, to just Jared Allen, they win that trade, in my opinion. Jared Allen playing in crunch time in the All-Star game. Actually, Nikola Jokic hit the bench in the 4th quarter of the All-Star game. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's the All-Star game, but LeBron trusted Jared Allen more on the floor in 4th quarter in crunch time than he did Nikola Jokic that night, which is, I'm not reading too much into that. Maybe Nikola Jokic was like, hey, guys, I'm tired. It's the All-Star game. Let me sit.
Right.
Who knows? Right? But playing meaningful minutes, making an impact. That's what he's been doing all season, and I hope it continues the second half of the season. But my rookie that I want to talk about, it making the biggest impact, in my opinion, maybe not the biggest impact, but he's been incredible. Scottie Barnes of the Toronto Raptors, and this team overachieving in my mind. I did not think they were going to be this good. Of course, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, robbed of an all-star berth, by the way. They have been incredible. OG Anunoby, I mean, Precious Achiuwa really stepping it up this year. Young guys off the bench stepping it up. Gary Trent Jr. absolutely finding an incredible rhythm the last month and a half of the season, like shooting lights out. But Scottie Barnes averaging 14, 7, and 3 with a block and a steal as well, shooting 47% from the field. Not the greatest three-point jumper, that, only shooting 31.3%, I believe. And he doesn't need to be the shooter, though. He doesn't need to really work. I mean, he'll work on it because it's the NBA and that's what they're focusing on these days. But Scottie Barnes, another big reason for a young team's turnaround and a young team's climb up the standings in the Toronto Raptors in the 7th seed right now. They're in a good spot, man. They're only 5 games out of first. So, and I believe they won on the 8 or 9 game winning streak right before the break. So going to be interesting to see what happens in Toronto the rest of the year as well.
Yeah, that's a good story. We talked about the East and kind of left them out. They've won. You're correct. They won their last 8 out of 10. They're only 5 out of first place. And with Scottie Barnes, I'm not really too worried about the 3-point shooter. Again, this is another big man succeeding as a rookie. I believe he's got to be like 6'9", 6'10", and he's what huge, he's able to. He's a big dude.
Huge, but he plays like the 4, or he plays like a point forward. He's all over the court, man. He really is.
Yeah, another just pure athlete. So what he's been able to do is huge as well. And I think we kind of took this list, and I would probably put Barnes as the second most likely to win the rookie of the year. I think it's, bearing any injury, and I hope that doesn't happen. Mobley's going to run away with it. But I think Barnes is a close second. He's definitely a close second. So he's been extremely fun to watch as well.
Absolutely. There's a lot to look forward to in the second half of the NBA season. We're going to wrap things up here on To the Rack with Mac. I want to thank my good friend and colleague, Joe Scurto. And as you saw that things went so well tonight, Joe Scurto will be coming back and joining us every week. We'll be bringing on special guests every Tuesday night. And hey, there might be a few more drastic changes happening here on To the Rack with Mac. You never know every week what's going to change, who's going to show up, what we're going to talk about, what we're going to get into, what we're going to change into. We're like caterpillars and we're turning into butterflies constantly every week. So it's been great tonight here with you, Joe. I want to ask, as I do every single time, every single week, we leave the folks at home with one hot take to look forward to for the next week of basketball. Of course, we get back to action on Thursday night. I believe it's a Celtics-Raptors matchup, so that's actually a great game to kick things off for the second half of the season. Celtics, I believe, going into Toronto. I might be mistaken on that. Don't quote me on that. But do you have a prediction for that game?
Celtics-Raptors. I mean, of course, the Celtics have played a lot better. I still have a sour taste in my mouth ending that 9-game win streak.
I was wrong, by the way.
Oh, it's not Celtics-Raptors?
No, it's Celtics-Nets in Brooklyn.
Okay, even better. I guess my hot take is the Celtics will beat them by 13 points. That is my hot take. I think they sour taste in my mouth. 9 out of 10. Losing to the Pistons, they'll come back and they'll beat up on the Nets.
All right. And I love my first matchup after the All-Star break. Of course, on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, for everybody out there, the Mavericks go on the road and travel to play the Utah Jazz for the first game. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Mavs by 20. Luka drops 50. Let's go. Let's go. I'm going hot for the second half of the season. First prediction headed into the second half of the season. We're going big. Go big or go home here on To the Rack with Max. So Luka with a 50 burger, Mavs by 20.
Love it.
Love it. Anyway, everybody, thank you once again for joining us for another great episode of To the Rack with Mac. For my good friend Joe Scurto, I'm Nick Mac, Daddy Mac, and we will see you again next week.